The time is precisely 6:45 am. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by J. Yogaraj and read by Chandima Veerakon. Headlines. IMF chief says staff-level agreement an important step forward for Sri Lanka. Main framework for CEB reforms to Cabinet by month end. The Agriculture Ministry says urea fertilizers distribution completed successfully. The Ministry of Fisheries alleged that there were incidents reported where the fill distributed to fishing community has been collected and sold to outsiders. The National Institute of Education says new educational reforms will provide the student-friendly school environment. The Litrogas is to reduce the prices of domestic gas. On news overseas, Liz Truss pledges energy plan in a week if she becomes Prime Minister. In sports news, US Open, Rafael Nadal beats Richard Gasquet in straight sets to reach fourth round. Local stories in detail. Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, says she is very pleased that IMF staff and Sri Lankan government officials have reached a staff-level agreement to support the country's economic policies with a 48-month extended fund facility of about $2.9 billion. This is an important step forward for Sri Lanka, she said in a Twitter message on Sunday. On Thursday, it was announced that IMF staff and the Sri Lankan authorities have reached a staff-level agreement to support Sri Lanka's economic policies with a 48-month arrangement under the Extended Fund Facility, or the EFF, of about $2.9 billion. This was at the end of an IMF mission led by Mr. Peter Brewer and Mr. Masahiro Nozaki, who visited Colombo from August 24th to September 1st, 2022, to continue discussions on IMF support for Sri Lanka and the authorities' comprehensive economic reform program. The objective of Sri Lanka's new fund-supported program is to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability while safeguarding financial stability, protecting the vulnerable, and stepping up structural reforms to address corruption vulnerabilities and unlock Sri Lanka's growth potential, the IMF said. However, debt relief from Sri Lanka's creditors and additional financing from multilateral partners will be required to help ensure debt sustainability and close financing gaps. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara says he met with members of the committee appointed to propose reforms to the Ceylon Electricity Board, or the CEB, to discuss their proposals this morning. He said the committee has met with development agencies, experts in the sector, stakeholders, and that it will meet with political parties and the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka next week. The main framework for the proposed reforms will be presented to the Cabinet of Ministers by the end of the month, the minister said in a tweet. New educational reforms will be made to prepare the Sri Lankan students to be able to face the 21st century challenges courageously. Director General of the National Institute of Education, or the NIE, Dr. Sunil Jayantha Navaratna says forthcoming reforms will provide the student-friendly and attractive school environment to support active learning. In the new reforms, attention is mainly focused on to address human and physical resource issues in the government schools. Speaking to the SLBC, he also said the NIE is now conducting sessions for the principals and deputy principals on new educational reforms, and Finland educationalist Professor Tapio is providing assistance to the NIE to carry out the project. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with local stories, The Ministry of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development alleged that there were incidents reported where the fuel distributed to the fishing community has been collected and sold to outsiders. There are 109 fuel stations allocated for the fishing community for fuel distribution. But there were incidents reported where some have collected the fuel in large scale and sold outside. The ministry is conducting an investigation in this regard. The ministry requests the public to report any misconduct or fraud at fuel stations or from the vendor's side. LITRA Chairman Mudita Peiris said in accordance with the price formula introduced recently, the LITRA Gas Lanka Company expects to further reduce the prices of all domestic gas cylinder categories with effect from midnight today. He said the gas price is revised on the 5th of every month using this price formula and considering the fluctuations in the gas prices in the world market. LITRA Chairman further said that the company expects to launch its home delivery mobile application immediately, thus facilitating the consumers to purchase gas cylinders online. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. IMF chief says staff-level agreement an important step forward for Sri Lanka. Main framework for CEB reforms to cabinet by month end. The Agriculture Ministry says urea fertilizer distribution completed successfully. The Ministry of Fisheries alleged that there were incidents reported where the fuel distributed to fishing community has been collected and sold to outsiders. The National Institute of Education says new educational reforms will provide the student-friendly school environment. The LITRA Gas Company is to reduce the prices of domestic gas cylinders. That ends the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on the main news story, the Ministry of Agriculture says that the government has successfully completed the distribution of urea fertilizer for the 2022 Yala season. The stock of urea fertilizer brought to Sri Lanka under an Indian loan scheme was received 65,000 metric tons of urea fertilizer under the Indian Loan Assistance Program. The first consignment of 44,000 metric tons was delivered to the country on the 9th of July. Second consignment of 21,000 metric tons of urea arrived on the 20th of August. The Ministry of Agriculture had estimated 275,000 hectares of paddy land for cultivation. The Irrigation Department and the Mahaveli Authority has stated that 100% of the paddy land under the institutions was cultivated in the Yala season. Meanwhile, chairman of the Dambulla Economic Centre, Shanta Ekanayaka, said that the price of many vegetables has been decreased these days. He said large stocks of vegetables are received at centres, but the prices of fruits are unchanged, he added. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, Sri Lankan citizens and residents have been given a 1-month amnesty from 15th August to deposit or sell foreign currency in possession without questioning, Cabinet spokesperson Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said. The minister said this while speaking at the press conference to announce the cabinet decisions held at the Government Information Department recently. Accordingly, persons in or resident in Sri Lanka who hold foreign currency notes in possession can deposit those currency into a personal foreign currency account or into a business currency account or sell to an authorized dealer. The minister said that the Central Bank of Sri Lanka had previously issued an announcement in this regard, and further information can be obtained from the website www.dfe.lk or contacting Foreign Exchange Department through 011 2477 2555 or 011 239 8511. The numbers again, 011 2477 2555 or 011 239 8511. That ends Watch Light. We move on to the world news next. The headlines of the world news. Liz Truss pledges energy plan in a week if she becomes Prime Minister. Cyrus Mistry, billionaire former Tata chairman, dies in car crash. The Shard, climber reported and 3 men arrested. Liz Truss has promised to announce a plan to deal with soaring energy costs within a week if she becomes Prime Minister on Tuesday. The Tory leadership, hopeful, the favourite according to pollsters, told the BBC's Laura Kusenberg she would act immediately to help with bills. But she offered no details, saying she would need time in office first in order to finalise exact proposals. Her rival, Rishi Sunak, said he would target further payments at the poorest. India's Prime Minister has described the death of the billionaire former chairman of Tata, the country's largest conglomerate, as a big loss for the business world. Cyrus Mistry died on Sunday in a road accident while travelling to Mumbai. One other person was killed and 2 more passengers were injured, police in India's western Maharashtra state said. A 21-year-old man had been arrested on suspicion of trespass after a person was seen climbing the Shard building in central London. Metropolitan police officers were called to the 1,017 feet tall or 310-metre skyscraper at 5:38 BST. London Fire Brigade and the ambulance service also attended, and a number of cordons were put in place. To end the world news, the headlines again. Liz Truss pledges energy plan in a week if she becomes Prime Minister. Billionaire former Tata chairman dies in car crash. The Shard, climber reported and 3 men arrested. That ends world news. Moving on to the development news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson commended the efforts of President Ranil Wickremesinghe for establishing an inclusive government that will bring the stability needed to address issues for the Sri Lankan people. In a congratulatory message to President Wickremesinghe on his appointment as the head of state, the British Prime Minister said that upholding democratic principles and seeking democratic consensus will be vital to President Ranil Wickremesinghe's success. That ends development news.
Sports News is brought to you by...
With many values that bind us beyond the transaction, we are Sampath Bank. We present your future.
And on sports news, it's tennis. Victoria Azarenka says tennis needs to improve safeguarding to stop vulnerable young ladies getting taken advantage of. WTA Player Council member Azarenka made her comments after French player Fiona Ferro accused her former coach Pierre Bouter of rape and sexual assault. A lawyer for Bouter told AFP he recognizes the relationship occurred but denies any coercion. Rafael Nadal continued his quest for a third Grand Slam title of 2022 with victory over Richard Gasquet to reach the 4th round of the US Open. Spain's Nadal, a 4-time winner in New York, prevailed 6-0, 6-1, 7-5 in his 18th win over Frenchman. The 36-year-old won the Australian and French Opens earlier this year before injury saw him withdraw before his Wimbledon semi-final. That ends Sports News.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
A A dominant player in Sri Lanka's tile manufacturing sector, Mac Tiles Lanka Private Limited, recently commenced operations of its third manufacturing facility at its plant in Bandaragama, a major step for the company in fulfilling the country's tile requirement while achieving self-sufficiency within the industry. With the induction of the newest production line, it will be able to produce 44,000 square meters of tiles per day, as the upgrade adds 30,000 square meters on top of the existing 14,000 square meters capacity per day. This allows Mac Tiles Lanka to produce a colossal 15 million square meters of tiles annually. That ends business news.
Business news. Sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Europe, Japan, even the Middle East countries now ask for companies who are ethically trading and with good governance, and the German government is going to pass a law telling the German companies to make sure that their supplies are abiding by human rights, Shiham Marika, SG CEO of NCE, said, addressing the annual press conference of the 30th NCE Export Awards held in Colombo recently. The CEO further said the objective is to get all our members with a certification to say that our members are ethically trading exporters. That is going to do very good to the country as well. We need to highlight in the international arena that Sri Lankan exporters are ethical trading companies. That ends the economic news.
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award, whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking. LOLC Finance will continue to innovate with the next generation digitalization of financial services, delivering a superior customer experience.
And finally, on the weather report, showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Galle and Matra districts. Fairly heavy rainfalls above 75 millimeters may occur at some places in the Sabaragamuwa province and in Kandy, Nuwara Eliya and Kalutara districts. Showers or thundershowers will occur at a few places elsewhere in the evening or at night. Strong winds, about 50 kilometers per hour, can be expected at times over the western slopes of the central hills. General public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. This weather report was published this evening at 4:30 a.m. Further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. Meanwhile, the international weather forecast website AccuWeather.com reports the day's weather will be cloudy with occasional showers. Today's daytime temperature is observed to be around 28 degrees Celsius. There will be light showers in many places in Colombo district in the night. Tonight's temperature will be around 26 degrees Celsius and there will be scattered showers in selected spots late in the night. The ground temperature would be 27 degrees Celsius at the time of this news broadcast. The air quality index, AQI, is 26. The air quality is generally acceptable for most individuals. However, sensitive groups may experience minor to moderate symptoms from long-term exposure. That ends the weather report. And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. IMF chief says staff-level agreement an important step forward for Sri Lanka. Main framework for CEB reforms to cabinet by month-end. The Agriculture Ministry says urea fertilizer distribution completed successfully. The Ministry of Fisheries alleged that there were incidents reported where the fuel distributed to fishing community has been collected and sold to outsiders. The National Institute of Education says new educational reforms will provide the student-friendly school environment. The Litrogas company is to reduce the prices of domestic gas cylinders. And on news overseas, Liz Truss pledges energy plan in a week if she becomes Prime Minister. In sports news, it's the US Open. Rafael Nadal beats Richard Gasquet in straight sets to reach fourth round. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.